Hi everyone, thanks for joining me again. First of all, thank you everyone for your comments on my last live video broadcast. We had a really great discussion, and it was actually your comments specifically asking about cloud storage and how cloud storage relates to what you're doing with your photos, especially on your phones. That has led me to have this conversation with you today and to create the blog post that is also about cloud storage. It's called Lifting the Fog on the Cloud. And if you are not on my email list, then maybe you didn't know this was posted, but you can go to my website, photoxo.net, to view that blog post. But some of what I wrote is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, I would really like to be able to show you screenshots of some of what I'm talking about, but I'm using my phone to create this broadcast. So what I'm going to do is, if there's any questions to see specific screenshots, examples of what things look like from your phone, then I'm going to screenshot them and put them in the comments later. So as usual, feel free to ask your questions as we're talking, and I'll get to them at the end. And yeah, I hope this is helpful for you, because to be honest, I'm a photo professional, and this learning about cloud storage in a way that will help you learn exactly how these are relating to your photos, whether it is a good place to store all your photos or not. It's a lot. So again, thank you for bringing this up as something you'd like clarification on. So let's start by defining what exactly does the cloud mean. I feel like if there's one term that has just kind of overtaken any talk of technology in the last couple of years, it's the cloud. And I also feel like it's probably one of the most misunderstood terms too. So simply put, the cloud refers to cloud computing, okay, which in and of itself probably doesn't mean anything to you. And I'm not going to get too technical here, because we don't need to know all about cloud computing and all about the history of it or anything, but we just need to know how does it relate to how we are trying to preserve our photos. So cloud computing essentially means that you know how you have your desktop computer, right? And you have some applications, some files, some programs that live on your desktop computer. Well, the cloud simply means that those things live elsewhere. They live on a server somewhere else. So they don't necessarily live on your computer. You can access them via your computer, but the files themselves, in this case, we'll talk about the photos themselves, the data is stored somewhere else. It could be in another city, in another state, in another country. So we've been doing cloud computing for longer than we've had the term. If you work in a job where you have to go online to log into a database or a specific program that you use to do your job, that's kind of the same thing, where you have to go log in, access this point, and then you have, the ability to sort of get into this information. So don't be scared when you hear the cloud, because it's actually something that's very simple, and we're so accustomed to it with the internet. It's just that now we have this term for it. Now, we also usually say the cloud. That kind of implies that there's only this one sort of amorphous, benevolent savior sort of thing in the internet that is backing up all of our stuff with or without us telling it to. And so I want to kind of clear up that a little bit too. There is no single one cloud, right? The cloud can be, it can happen through any number of different applications, different access points. For instance, all of our phone providers have clouds now. I've seen that Sprint has a cloud, Verizon has a cloud. Samsung, which is not a phone service provider, but it's a cell phone creator, Samsung has a cloud. Microsoft has a cloud. So all of these clouds are simply different storage points. They're different places where you can store your data, and in this instance, your photos. So now that I've sort of gotten this complicated with you, I'm going to try to simplify everything, because basically, like I said, we're really focusing in on our photographs. How does this affect our photos? So I'm just going to talk about 3 of the sort of main, most popular cloud services that are used for photo backup. We have the Apple family, which is iCloud, iPhoto, which is now called Photos. But I continue to say iPhoto because I use the word photos a lot, And so I'm going to say iPhoto in order to differentiate between when I'm talking about the application and when I'm just talking about your pictures. So that's the Apple family. The Google or like Android family is Google Drive and Google Photos. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about Dropbox, just because I love Dropbox for a few things, but I have a serious warning about using Dropbox to be your photo storage in terms of a cloud-based automated thing. So the one thing you need to know about all photo storage options and the cloud is that nothing is automatic. You have to opt in no matter what. So even though when you get a new iPhone, the first thing you have to do when you get an iPhone is to sign into your iCloud account. That alone does not mean that your photos are being backed up, okay? So in order to turn on your iCloud backup through your iPhone, you have to go into settings and then you look for photos and camera. And in there, you'll see a couple of little options. One is called iCloud Photo Library, which is kind of, this is the main way that now our photos are backed up to the Apple Cloud, to iCloud, right? Is through turning on this iCloud Photo Library. What that means is that every photo that you take is, I'm not going to say automatically. I'm going to make a point not to say automatically because it's not quite constant like that. But every photo that you take is then uploaded to the cloud at some point, okay? It's not instantaneous. This is one of the biggest sort of warnings that I have about relying on cloud photo storage to back up your photos, is that it's not always instantaneous. Your photos and everything is backed up to iCloud when your phone is plugged in and within range of an approved Wi-Fi network. So for most of us, this might happen at home overnight. When we get home and we plug our phone in at night and we're asleep, then that's when things are being uploaded to iCloud if we have Wi-Fi. If we don't have Wi-Fi, then you got to go to a friend's house, you got to go to work and hope that they have Wi-Fi or something like that. But you may still get messages that say this phone hasn't been backed up in 3 weeks, in 4 weeks, in 70 days. That means your photos aren't being backed up, okay? So nothing happens automatically and nothing happens instantaneously. If you're in your iPhone settings, where I just described where to turn on iCloud Photo Library, there's also an option to choose Optimize iPhone Storage. And what that means is that your photos are uploaded to the cloud and what's kept on your phone is a smaller file. Okay, you can still access those larger files, but this is what helps prevent that cannot take photo error message that we talked about in our last broadcast. So I did have a direct question that said, well, if I have iCloud Photo Library turned on, then I don't necessarily have to worry about running out of storage on my phone. And that's not 100% true. You have to have that option checked, optimize for iPhone storage. It's still possible. It's just that helps like lessen the likelihood that you're going to run out of space on your phone. There's a third option in there that says upload to my photo stream. And to be honest, the photo stream is to me the most confusing thing about iCloud, iPhotos. And I don't think I even want to get into it. If you want specific information about the photo stream, then I'll do a whole nother post about the interrelationships between the photo stream and your moments. And I mean, there's so many different ways that iPhoto sort of organizes your pictures within your own sort of account that, I mean, it's so confusing. I don't want to muck up the waters at this point. So I just bring that up because, well, here's why I bring it up. Because we could think that because something is in our photo stream that it's backed up to iCloud. And I'm just going to say that that's not the case. So I'll leave it at that. There's a little bit more information in the blog. Again, if this is like a burning desire that y'all have to know, I'll talk about it again sometime in the future. But I keep that upload to my photo stream off just to prevent the confusion on my end because it's just such a weird thing. So, okay, that's enough, I think, about iCloud for the moment and your photos. So if you want to use iCloud with your photos, you want to turn on iCloud Photo Library Backup. That's also going to turn it on with any photos that are in iPhotos within your computer. So it may take quite a while for everything to show up. But the cool thing is that then you do have this mirroring relationship between the photos on your phone and the photos that are on your computer, and then they're all in iCloud. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Google Drive and Google Photos. Google Drive is not substantially different from iCloud. It does the same sort of storage of any file that you want, including your photographs. But again, remember, I said the number one thing is that you have to opt in. Nothing is automatic. So if you're using an Android phone, you probably have to go into your settings and tell it that you want to use Google Drive to back up your phone and to back up your photos. I have some friends who swear by Google Photos, and I heard recently that they did change their drive storage, and that's actually something I meant to just mention with regards to the iCloud storage plans. With iCloud, you get 5 gigs of storage free. With Google Drive, you get 15 gigs free. So there's a greater sort of threshold of free with, one versus the other. This is really going to be up to you to decide which one is best for your circumstances. But although a lot of people I know swear by Google Drives, here's my thing about Google. It's not coming from a place of like paranoia or like, Google's going to turn evil at some point and they have all my data. It's not really about that. Here's the thing though. Google has a history. Google does what's best for Google, right? Google gives us a lot of things for free. And I think that we think because Google's been around for so long that this is, Google wants to be kind to its clients, its customers, whatever. But Google's doing what's good for Google. And when something becomes, no longer important for Google, it goes away. So one of the biggest examples of this was a Google product called Google Reader, which was huge. It essentially was the only RSS reader that existed for a long time, and it was so successful. And a few years ago, Google just shut it down, and there was no warning. This is a big deal for websites. Websites were relying on this to ensure that their readers were notified when there was some new content. So anyway, my issue with Google is that they can shut things down anytime they want. They have no sort of responsibility to notify us, those of us whose photos are in there. They've also had, in the past, they've had another photo service called Picasa, which has also been shut down. What I imagine Google is getting from us by allowing us to upload our photos for free, and this is just my hunch, I don't know, this may sound a little paranoid, but it's really not. Google's business is advertising, right? It's like we get the stuff for free, but their clients are the advertisers. So I think that when Google offers us, the ability to upload our photos, they're creating a sort of a more fleshed out version of us as clients that can then help advertisers relate to us better. So for right now, they're getting a lot of information from our photos. They get information in the metadata like our location, and if we tag our friends' faces, then they kind of get that information too. And so it's really helping them to be able to sell to their advertisers better client profiles. If Google ever kind of loses that benefit from us uploading our photos, I guarantee this will go away. So just be aware of that, okay? It's not going away anytime soon. This is a kind of a new product. Google Photos is kind of a new one, so it's not going away anytime soon. But my ultimate warning with all of these cloud services for storing your photos is don't rely on them to be your sole backup of your photos, because they're doing us a favor. They're not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. They're doing it because they're getting something out of it. And things can change at any moment. So if you want to use the cloud services, that's awesome. I use them. They're good for what they're good for. But my photos do not only live on the cloud, which is why I encouraged you in the last broadcast to really get them onto your computer and get them backed up in another way. I want to briefly mention Dropbox because Dropbox is really great. It's kind of a hybrid of a cloud storage and a local desktop file folder that then lets you access those files or photos in there from sort of different computers if you use different computers. So when I used to work out of my home, I had a Dropbox folder on my computer at work, and if I needed to shuttle things back and forth, that was the easiest way. So Dropbox has a wonderful mobile app, and it has the option to upload all the photos from your camera roll directly to it, which means that they go to your desktop computer. So when I first tried this, I was like, oh, this is wonderful because it's exactly what I do anyway to get my photos from my phone to my computer, but it saves me a step because I don't have to go through what I taught you last time, which was to plug in your phone and, use image capture to move everything over manually. So this was kind of something I thought was like really awesome. This is happening rather automatically. It's happening when, I'm connected to Wi-Fi. It's kind of just continually working in the background. Well, Dropbox has a storage limit like every cloud service does, because they can't just let you put everything there. So whenever I would need to clean out my Dropbox folder to free up more space because of my storage limit, I would just move those photos into another folder on another hard drive, on my desktop, whatever. Dropbox, if those photos were still on my phone, Dropbox would resync the photos, because what Dropbox wants to do is to make your whatever folder you're syncing with it. So in this case, my camera roll on my phone, it wants to make that match the folder in my desktop. So every time I would move those photos over to somewhere else to save space, it would just start from scratch and re-upload them, because I hadn't taken them off my camera roll. They were still on my phone, which is the other step I instructed you to do a couple days ago, to get them off your phone. So what I ended up with was this like nightmare horror story of duplicate photos, like thousands and thousands and thousands of duplicate photos, because this was happening for months and I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it because I allowed myself to think that something happening automatically was happening in a way that I understood. Okay, so again, I think that my main takeaway in my research of these, sort of primary cloud-based storage for photo options is that they're all really cool. Like, this technology is really awesome. It makes it really easy to share photos. I do have some really good things to say about both iPhoto and Google Photos in terms of sharing, and maybe I'll make that a whole nother thing because it's way fun. Use them for what they're good for, okay? They're not perfect storage systems. They're not perfect organizing systems, because their organizing logic is not necessarily the way you would think to organize things. So use them for what they're good for. Don't rely solely on them to be the storage of your photos. We have to have redundancy. If you really want your photos safe and backed up and certain to be backed up, what we need then is a redundant system. And these, for me, these do not satisfy that requirement of mine. There's kind of too many variables. There's too much variation between one system and another. And I get into a lot of this more in the blog. I just didn't want to read the blog to you, and it's definitely not interesting to talk about over and over and over again. So do your research as you're deciding which photo-based cloud storage is best for you. Find out, when do they back up? When do the photos back up? What happens if you don't want to use that service anymore? How do you retrieve your photos from it? What if you're what if you're leaving the Apple family of products and you're switching to the Android family of products? How do you then get your photos from iPhoto, from iCloud at that point? These are all, serious questions that sometimes when we get a new phone, we think, oh, it'll just happen automatically, and we don't even double check. So, really train yourself to ask those questions and to not assume that the technology companies who have created these products are, as sort of concerned about your individual photographs as you should be, and as you are for your family. So I suppose that's where I stand on photo-based cloud storage, which is kind of everywhere, really. So I'm sure there's probably still more questions to answer. Please put them in the comments and I'll respond to them. Thanks again for viewing. I'm really loving doing these. They're so much fun, these little live broadcasts. So I'm going to continue doing them. I'll have 2 more next week, and I will let you know exactly what days they're going to be. And have a great weekend. I'm actually off to the beach for a couple days. So have a great weekend. Take lots of pictures of whatever fun stuff you're doing this weekend, and we will chat soon. Bye-bye.